looking at production last year, did you hit any milestones with your carriers? Did they have a lot of incentives and a lot of things going on typically? And looking at your portfolio, is it hard to do it with one carrier, or do you have like 7 Medicare Advantage companies or 7 sub companies that you're trying to facilitate? And that can get very difficult.
Oh, for sure. And that's, again, it's always just good to know what you have as far as looking at your portfolio, looking at what you have in your holster, so to speak. What can you offer your clients? What is it that they're interested in? We talk about this, I think one thing, again, that you really have to look at when it comes to your production with your contracts, does a high production with one contract, does that mean that you moved a lot of business from another one? I know this year there's a ton of movement between Aetna and United Healthcare, depending on what part of the nation you reside in. But making sure that, again, if are you moving that book of business, taking pocket or money from your left pocket and sticking into your right pocket? Or are you able to build a book of business and make sure that you are able to keep all your contracts?
100%. Yeah. And side note, yes, Brian, my shelf did change behind me. Good observation. I got a new shelf. I don't know why. I just felt like I needed to change. But anyway, it's because I always saw agents and getting on trips and winning contests and getting higher commissions because of their production value. It's hard to do these things with a carrier when you have 7 or 8 of them that you're spreading your business through. And I realize that, well, you might be saying, well, Mike, Olivia, come on now, you two should know that I need options for my clients. I need to have various choices for all of them. But I always look at it like Cheesecake Factory versus Chipotle. They're 2 very different restaurants, but when you go to Chipotle, it's a quick decision. It's easy to say yes. You know what? You want to go to Chipotle? Yeah, I could use a burrito, or I could use some tacos. Where when you said you want to go Cheesecake Factory, it's like, oh, they have like 150 items on their menu. It feels overwhelming. I don't know what I want. Do I want Chinese style food? Do I want Italian? Do I want Americana? Do I want this? And it's all there. So it's overwhelming, and it's easy for people to go, no, I want to go somewhere simple, or I want to make a simple decision. Well, if you're giving your clients 7, 8 different options for Medicare supplements, they may feel like they're looking at that Cheesecake Factory menu going, uh-oh, I'm just overwhelmed, as opposed to walking to Chipotle, one of my favorites, and going, yeah, I want that. Done, simple, easy to do.
Now, keep in mind, I know Mike has on here those higher commissions. And the reason why we put that, and it is very important, is to make sure that you are getting paid very fairly. Making sure that you're not on a lower commission level than what you think you deserve based if you're working with an FMO. If you're a captive agent, that is different because you are getting a lot of other things in exchange for those commissions. But if you are an independent agent, you want to make sure you're getting those higher commission levels that you qualify for based on what the carrier says. My little piece of advice for you: if you have a care contract with a carrier, and let's just say you did pretty well, you overall produced what that commission, in order to get bumped up to the next level, the next highest commission level, you qualify for that, and that's fine and that's great, and we need to make sure we get you on that level. But here's something to consider: when you get pushed up on that level, essentially what you're telling that carrier is that you should expect more out of me. You should expect more out of me because, again, I'm writing more business, so so again, I earn that more commission. If you're going to get bumped up with a carrier, that's them putting their eyes on you as far as how you run your business. So if you're not planning on doing a ton of business with that carrier, do not get bumped up, because you could ultimately get put back down on commission levels, or sometimes they'll even say terminate a contract because you don't qualify for that commission level. So just keep that in mind. If you are on a level and you want to get bumped up to the next level, please really truly understand what that means. Yes, obviously it means a higher level of commission, an increase in point of commission. It also means that you're going to have an extra set of eyes on you from that carrier to make sure that you're meeting the expectations of that higher amount.
Yeah, and Olivia said the magic C word, which is captive. And if you're a captive, who do the bonuses go to? Who do the contests go to? Who do all those things go to? The higher production agents, because you focus on that. Because I realize even as a captive agent, you still have individual product lines or maybe specific products that you could be maybe offering more. So don't think, well, I'm capped that this doesn't apply to me. It still does, because if you're very passionate about cancer insurance, then you should be talking more about it and winning those contests and getting those bonuses and being, yes, you will be looked at harder, but when there are special opportunities within that carrier. So example, I did a lot with Coventry back when Coventry was a thing in Kansas City, and when they had special group enrollment projects, they called in their higher production agents to say, hey, would you mind sitting at this community center all day while people enroll in their group insurance? And every time someone signs up, you get a commission. And literally all you did was sit at a desk and say, here are the benefits, sign here if you want it. They come up, yeah, that looks good, sign, and you just earn a commission. They just need a licensed agent to sit there and do that. So as those projects come up, they're going to call people they know. They're not going to randomly pick an agent from the field and go, you have a nice name, let's get you in here. No, the big swingers are going to get that. The guys hitting dingers, or the girls hitting dingers, the baseball term there. It's the only baseball term I know. Dinger.
Say, do you even know how baseball works?
Yeah, there's a base and you got to throw the ball at it. So
close, nailed it.
Nailed it. But
make sure that you're looking at your companies, make sure you're looking at your contracts, making sure that, again, because a lot of these carriers right now are relaunching or are now announcing their trips incentives, their bonus incentives. You're going to see coming up, you're going to see a ton of incentives based around underwritten business. And the reason for that is because a lot of carriers are doing whatever they can to keep their Plan Gs competitive, to really stop and slow the bleed of the Plan G guarantee issue business. So you're going to see some new incentives. You're going to see some new trip ideas really placed around underwritten business. And honestly, I think you're going to see a ton based around Plan In as well. So just keep an eye on that. I don't know if you should write business based on what trip or where they're going to send you, but just know that a lot of carriers are doing some really interesting incentives right now to try to get a different style or new mix of business to stop the Plan G bleed.
100%. And we talk about MGA levels. If you're wanting to add agents to your agency, you will need contracts that allow that. It's hard to say, hey, street level contract on this product is 20%, but I'm going to give you 15% because you're going to work with me. And that's not incentivizing to people to join you. Now, if you start getting higher production, you have a 25% contract and the street level is 20, you could add agents at a 5% override to your production. So that's how you get the MGA contracts and the big contracts, is by having higher production levels with that carrier. And again, like Olivia said, you shouldn't base your book of business on who's going to pay you the most. You should do what's best for your client. But that still doesn't mean you have to offer them 9 different med subs and 3 different dental vision hearing plans and 6 different cancer policies. The more you streamline your agency, the more rewards you're going to get from the carriers and the more yeses you're going to get from clients, because you're making the decision process easier.
Now, keep in mind, when it comes to increasing your contract levels, when it comes to saying like, hey, I've done a lot of production with this company, I think I deserve a higher commission level, absolutely make sure you have that conversation with your upline. But keep in mind, most FMOs and most uplines actually don't have much of a decision when it comes to handing out contracts above street level. Most carriers actually set rules and standards that FMOs have to abide by when it comes to basically to keep at a level playing field when it comes to those commissions and those increases. There really are 2 factors that it will affect whether you qualify for a higher contract level or not. One of them is going to be obviously the amount of production. They'll typically look at the last 12 months. If it is a brand new company, a brand new med sup, or what the case may be, they'll say, let's say a new med sup comes into the state. They'll say, okay, how much med sup production have you done in the last 12 months? The kind of the baseline that they look at is around $100,000 worth of API to get that next level. That's if it's a brand new contract. Now, if it's a contract that you've already had, like we talked about earlier, if it's a contract that you've had now for several months up to a year, they're not going to look at your overall MedSup API. They look at your API with that particular carrier. So for example, if you write a ton of hospital indemnity plans and you want to get bumped up hospital indemnity plans with Medico, but you've been writing all of your hospital indemnity with GTL, they're going to say, Medico's going to say, well, you haven't written $100,000 of API with us in the last 12 months, so no, you don't qualify for that increase. again, if you do want to go ahead and get that, maybe there's a huge opportunity with Medico, you want to go ahead and see if you get that bump up. A lot of times they'll work with you, but like I mentioned before, that's an extra set of eyes, an extra set of expectations for you to meet that, especially when it's a carrier that you had previous to that increase. So just keep that in mind. Again, it's just big things to take away. It's not always, and very rarely is the FMO's decision to give you that level increase. They're going to look at your downline agents. Do you have an opportunity? A lot of times it's one agent versus 10 agents. So do you have the downlines to qualify for that? And do you have the API for the last 12 months to qualify for that as well?
Sorry, I had to show. Brian was like, "Is there a dog in Mike's room?" We have just side note, that's not important. Olivia fell awesome points actually, but there's a barn door between the living room and my office, and Coco, the dog, has figured out how to open it. She figured out she could put her snout in there and just move it over. So now she just joins me for the Medicare Cafe. So yeah, there you go. But yeah,
it's good napping content. I understand.
Yes. I will say, if you're looking to streamline your portfolio, like Olivia said, and maybe there's a new opportunity in your market, you could look up what's available in your area at smsteam.net/products and take a gander. You could call us and have a conversation with our outreach team or our accounts team about, hey, this year I see a big opportunity here. How should I prepare for that? And we've said this before, and we'll keep on saying it. When you're offering ancillary products, pick one, don't pick 7, because the easier you make it to say yes, the more people will. The less they have to think, the more decisions they will make. So keep that in mind.
And again, when it comes to Medicare supplements, Medicare Advantage plans, really you need to look at the 2 options, particularly with MedSup. You need to have the low cost plans. You do need to make sure you're staying up to date with what's cost affordable based on the age demographic. But more importantly, you have to have those big carrier name recognitions. Aetna, United Healthcare, Cigna, Humana, you do have to have those. And having an agency but not having those big brand name carriers is like having a grocery store that doesn't carry Coca-Cola. You are going to have some people that want that RC soda or want the giant bags of value packs of cereal, but you're also going to have those individuals that want the Coca-Cola or want the Captain Crunch. So a lot of people, again, they don't necessarily buy logically, they buy based on emotion, use logic to justify their means of that purchase. So keep that in mind when it comes to those ancillary products. You need a powerhouse. You need one carrier per ancillary product. The client isn't there to shop carriers. They're there to shop benefits within that carrier. They're expecting you, the agent, to do your research ahead of time to make sure that you are proposing or you offer the best type of plan for their situation. So you don't need 5 different cancer insurance companies. You need one carrier per product. We always reach out to, the Aetnas, the GTL, same kind of concept there. Make sure that you have the portfolio to take care of your clients, and make sure that your contracts are set up appropriately based on your production and based on your agency size.
So there I was, starting off my Medicare career with Humana. And at that time, Humana did not have a MedSup. So we actually partnered with Mutual of Omaha, and we sold Mutual of Omaha SUPs and Humana MA plans. Had a client come in the office and she goes, "I need a drug plan." I'm like, "Great. Well, what do you have for your health insurance?" Just in fact finding. And she goes, "Well, I don't have one yet, but I'm gonna go with United Healthcare because I'm a member of AARP. I know the name, blah blah blah." I'm like, "Okay." At that time in Kansas, the United Healthcare Plan F was like $140 a month, and Mutual of Omaha's was $88. So big difference, like a $60, like a $50 a month difference. So I told her, I said, "You know what? You could get almost identical coverage with another major carrier, Mutual of Omaha." And she goes, "Yeah, I know them." I said, "It's going to save you $50 a month." And she's like, "No, I need United Healthcare because I had them when I was working and blah 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 blah." And she stuck with her guns and stayed with United Healthcare. Even though it was more, it was that name recognition that got her there. So don't think that most people will go with the cheapest plan always. Sometimes if they've had United Healthcare or Blue Cross Blue Shield all through their working life, there's a lot of brand recognition there. And they're like, you know what, I'm comfortable with that. It's a couple bucks more, but I've been happy with them my whole life. I'm going to stick with it. And that's how Blue Cross got a lot of their business in Kansas. They weren't cheap. They were even more expensive than United Healthcare, but they had a big group share. So they'd say, oh, you're retiring? Here's your new coverage. And people would say, great, I guess this is what I'm going to pay, you know. So I highly, highly, highly recommend those, having those big names for not guilt by association, but success by association with those.
That's all I got.
Yes. So now this week, there's going to be an elephant in your room. So I hope you have a very good foundation, because those are heavy creatures. But they're going to talk about cancer insurance. So we've touched on cancer insurance in the past, but Olivia and Sadie are going to do a more rollout. You want to talk about that a little bit, Olivia, since
Yeah.
that's the extent of my knowledge there.
Yeah, no, it's just, again, tomorrow we'll be talking about the elephant in the room, cancer. We call it that because a lot of people are really anxious to talk about cancer insurance, even though it is the #1 cause of medical bankruptcy, something that needs to be discussed. A lot of people are just very uncomfortable with it. So we'll be talking a lot about how COVID-19 is affecting cancer in the healthcare industry as a whole. A lot of people are actually, due to COVID-19, a lot of people were not able to get in for their regular screenings. And unfortunately, what that means is you're going to see more cancer diagnosis at later stages, because again, they did not go and get those early cancer screenings that they are accustomed to. So cancer you're going to see pop up to be a major concern in the upcoming years due to the effects of COVID-19 and the inability to get in front of their providers. And so we'll talk a lot about how cancer insurance policy will help your clients to help recover from home, have a nurse hotline, things like that, and talk about how to bring up cancer as a product to relieve a lot of those financial stresses. So
Yeah.
Lisa brought up an amazing
Go ahead.
point. She said brand recognition works against a lot of carriers too. For example, United Healthcare doesn't necessarily have the best branding as far as what their politics do for AARP. A lot of people will absolutely not get United Healthcare because of that AARP sticker and due to the politics come with it. Absolutely. So understanding a lot of in the same respect with that, Lisa, a lot of people say, well, when I was, working, my insurance was Cigna, and Cigna didn't pay for my knee surgery one time, and so they hate Cigna. And it's, well, Cigna, the under age 65, the group does not even work or talk with the Medicare side, but all they know is they see that brand, they know that recognition. So 100% brand can work for or against somebody. But ultimately, when it comes to building and worrying about brand recognition, is kind of facilitating a trust whenever you haven't built that relationship yet. It does build a credibility for you to offer those brand name carriers. Even if they end up not going that route, it still does show that you are serious in this industry because you can offer those contracts.
Yeah, it's always interesting to walk into someone's home, and that's why I always like to get home appointments, because you get a feel for who they are. What's on television? Is it Fox News? Is it CNN, MSNBC? And if you've talked to a handful of seniors, you've probably heard, I don't like United Healthcare or AARP because they're just a political action committee and the blah, 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 blah. So you know them to throttle back. So yeah, you know what? I do have them. I do offer them, but it sounds like this would be a better option for you. Then you pull out Mutual of Omaha or Cigna or somebody else, quickly diverting from going down the political rabbit hole of screw the government, which I'm all for, but still, we won't go there.
Howard asked if we have a resource to know how many med subs are in force for each company, excelling Medicare supplements, Medicare Advantage plans, dental cancer plans. Unfortunately, the only way, unless you're holding that information yourself through your own personal CRM, which I would highly recommend doing, is that you have to get outreach for those carriers to know how many policies you have in force. Some of them will tell you each carrier does it very differently. You can outreach to them and see how many policies you have on the books. However, it is extremely rare that a carrier will give you a list of all the clients you have with them. They are really slow to do that because they're afraid you're going to take that information and replace all of those policies with a competitor of theirs. So they're very slow to give you an actual list of your clients with that carrier, with those policies. Sometimes they will give you a count though. So again, we do highly recommend that you keep that information in your own personal CRM.
Yeah, so Howard asked a good question. Hey, where'd you get that statistic? Well, ta-da! I just literally Googled, I spelled it wrong, of course, because I was trying to do it blindly, But what's the number one cause of bankruptcy? And cancer patients are 2.5 times more likely to file bankruptcy after they're diagnosed. So even if it's not the number one, they're 2.5 times greater at risk of filing bankruptcy because
Yeah.
of being diagnosed with cancer. So you can tell your clients that. I wouldn't use the scare tactics as we talked about in the past, but it's important that they know that there is serious financial ramifications of being diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah.
And of course, like we've said before as well, cancer is one of those things. You could live life right. You could run marathons. You could bench press Buicks. You could, eat properly and still get cancer, or you could eat all the bacon in the world and smoke and never get cancer. So it's very, very different for everybody, and there's no rhyme or reason sometimes. So it's very scary.
We'll talk more about how to avoid the fear tactics tomorrow, as well as a lot of really interesting statistics surrounding Medicare and cancer.
Yeah, and 100%. So one thing I had a conversation about with a friend of mine last week. We were talking about T65 marketing, and he was like, it's not worth it because the carriers start doing T64 marketing and they have the budgets to market. In fact, AARP, you get that card when we turn 50. So, or in my wife's case, 106. So when you have 15 years from 50 to 65 of marketing, it's hard to compete against that when you come out of the gates 3 months before they turn 65. So we're going to talk this Friday about, is T65 marketing dead, or is it part of something? There is a poll in the Medicare Cafe agent group if you want to take that and comment on it, but we are going to talk about that this Friday on the Facebook Live on the Medicare Cafe Facebook page.
Absolutely. And I always talk about turning 65 marketing as push versus pull. Mike will discuss that on Friday. Brian asked a great question. He goes, does senior marketing specialist or any other FMO for that matter have a list of their clients, or is it only for the carriers? Senior marketing specialist does not have any access to your client's policy information. So keeping that in mind, we are not able to get a list of your clients. We don't have that ability. No other FMO, to my knowledge, would have that ability. Even if you enroll somebody through Medicare Center or CSG, that information is still tied to your profile. We do not have access to that as well. So.
Yeah, 100%. And that's a big thing you have to remember, is that once you enroll somebody into a carrier, they have just as much access to contact them as do you. In fact, they're probably going to contact them more with, policy updates, features of the policy. They're not shy about marketing because they know if you leave, they still want to keep them on their books. So just keep that in mind, that while carriers are on your side, they can also work against you in many ways. So just it's very important to have a very good marketing plan and a very good CRM to track that. And of course, we'll talk more about that as the cafe moves on throughout the weeks.
Reminder on how to access the Medicare Cafe Facebook Live video that Mike will be doing. Go at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. Go to your computer, get to the internet, type in facebook.com, and the search bar, type in Medicare Cafe. At 9 o'clock, Mike's shining face will be there, 9 a.m. sharp Central Standard Time. If you want to make sure you never miss whenever we upload some content, make sure you like our Medicare Cafe Facebook page and click follow to make sure you are getting notified anytime we go live.
Yes, it's the Mike model feed. Hello, my glamour shot. No. I need lasers in the background. But yeah, we go live every Friday. And then again, of course, if you have questions throughout the week, if you're like me and you're like, oh, I have a question, got to get out of my head before it goes into the black hole of forgottenness, feel free to join the Medicare Cafe group, or it's a closed group. Only group members can see. Over 700 agents are in there, and you can ask questions and get comments from around the, I would say globe, but around the country to your questions.
Have you, Mike, have you unpaused your screen? Because I imagine you're not on the right slide.
Oh, yeah. No, it should be going.
Okay. Okay. Bernadette, again, that is through facebook.com. In the search bar, click in Medicare Cafe Facebook page, and it'll take you, join there at 9 a.m. sharp. Corey says those large carriers will absolutely contact your clients, especially convert MedSup to Advantage plans, even when it doesn't fit the client's needs. But what do we know, right? I mean, absolutely. It's a lot of the big carriers will absolutely take those clients, have those conversations with them. Some of them, like United Healthcare, they will maintain agent of record. Anytime, again, they take them from like one Medicare Advantage plan to another Medicare Advantage plan, but not every carrier plays so nice. They'll also, again, a lot of carriers will have a bad habit of actually marketing products that you don't offer, don't have the capability to offer. For example, Mutual of Omaha has a guarantee issue final expense policy that we as independent agents don't have access to, which is why it makes it extremely important to always recommend that your clients call you first before ever discussing their insurance needs with any other individual, as well as making sure that they know every single product that you represent. So if there's somebody of another 800 number, another person's talking to them about final expense, they know that you, their agent, already offers that.
Yeah, and that, and again, I'll get on my high horse about low-cost Part D plans for the fact that carriers don't do that to be nice to seniors. They do that to build their book of business to solicit other products too. And I know Humana was very guilty of that when Part D plans first came out, because as a captive agent with them, we were the ones that were contacting or running appointments at the call center set up that Humana owned to go talk to Part D beneficiaries about MA plans. So it does happen, especially I would say United Healthcare is really good because a lot of their policies come from brokers. What always scares me, and I'm not going to say any names, but carriers that have a captive sales force, they're going to feed their captive sales force. They have to. So those are the carriers that I'm always cautious against, just for myself, and have a much higher, red flag when I sell their products, because I know that their captive agents would love to get their hands on my book of business.
So any other questions, comments, concerns, threats, or promises, again, whenever you're looking at your carriers doing a contract audit to make sure that you're set up on a fair and right commission schedule, anything like that, or just in general, any Medicare related questions, any thoughts, concerns, promises, and threats? Anything?
Now, Brian made a comment about, yes, that is R2-D2. I am a Star Wars fan, and there's Darth Vader, and then there's some other Star Wars stuff in the lower shelves. The reason I have stuff on there to keep things interesting, but also you get to know a little bit about my interests. And if you're ever going to do a video or a Zoom call with the client, I think it's nice to have stuff like that in the background, because if they're a Star Wars fan, guess what? They're like, oh, you like Star Wars, and now you make that connection. Pictures of your family, pictures, of your animals, dogs, cats, fish, whatever. So having a blank void is not phenomenal. Like Olivia does not care about time. That's why she never fixed her clock. See? Good to know.
Michael pointed out Olivia's clock still doesn't work, and it's not going to. It's art piece. It is not functional. Brian, you can ask a Medicare Center question, aka it's called that. But see, here's the thing. It does. My clock is battery powered. It's the hands have fallen off, and so now like the hands, they either are in that position or they swing below. Like it's broke. It's not a power issue. It's the clock issue.
Now, Brian, you asked, what are the pros and cons to the old different MAPD, PDP options? What do you mean, Brian?
No, I know what he means. He's talking about enrollment on Medicare Center.
Oh, so I'm sorry.
Yes. Medicare Center has two options. They have Medicare App, which is the traditional connector. If you're familiar with Enrollment Express, Medicare App is Enrollment Express. And then they have a second option called Medicare Link. For those of you individuals who have your contracts outside of senior marketing specialists, you're more familiar with that being called Sunfire. Medicare Link is Sunfire. Medicare App is Enrollment Express. Pros and cons of that. Medicare App, which is again the Enrollment Express platform, is a lot prettier, a lot more agent friendly, a lot more consumer friendly. You can send links, consumers can enroll themselves. It's much more streamlined. It's just a prettier, easier, more intuitive program. Medicare Link, aka Sunfire, in my opinion, is not as good, except it does beat Medicare App in one really big way that we have to address. And that is the fact that Medicare Link has the ability to shop by providers. If you're talking to an individual and they are very set that they go to this specialist, this hospital, and this primary care physician, you can go into Medicare Link, type in those providers, and shop which plans accept those providers or don't. So again, a little more clunky, not as intuitive, but it does have that huge selling point. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, Christy asked a great question. Should we trust Medicare.gov for Part D drug lookup? You know what? I always tell my clients, your drug prices are like gasoline. One day it's $1.99, next day it's $2.49, next week is $1.98.
What?
Drug prices do fluctuate. And, Medicare.gov isn't exact pricing, it's approximate pricing, period. They can't say, oh, Mabel, you go to Hy-Vee on Broadway, oh, you're going to pay this much. But if you go to the Walgreens, it'd be this much. No, it takes an average of that area and says this is ballpark what you're going to pay. So they should know
So
it's always a
what
ballpark.
I 10 out of 10 Medicare.gov, they are better this year. They are better this year than they were last year as far as accuracy is concerned. However, I still recommend using a program. I am a huge proponent of Medicare app, aka Connecture. Connecture is the program that actually managed and did the Medicare.gov drug and formulary lookup prior. Didn't have any issues. They had the relationships. You started seeing Medicare.gov actually being inaccurate whenever they started taking it on their own and kind of kick Connecture to the curb. So in my opinion, Medicare Center is going to be, specifically Medicare app, is going to be more accurate than Medicare.gov. It's not as bad. Medicare.gov is not as bad as it was last year. I'm not going to say it's great. It's just certainly not as bad as it was last year. Keep in mind, Medicare Center, you can store and keep their drug list information as well. So it's just an all-around better platform and allows you to do a lot more. Plus, Medicare app does link to mymedicare.gov, to where if a person will pull in their information from their Part D claims to help you auto-populate their prescription drugs that they're currently on. So it does have that capability as well. So use Medicare Center versus Medicare.gov, in my opinion.
Yeah, I still say always go to the source. So if you're looking at, ABC's Part D plan, go to their site and double check. Because again, if you're just checking formulary, like what tier it's going to be, I would be comfortable, but not 100% confident with Medicare.gov. I'm never comfortable with anything the government does, because my philosophy in the government is when you're the worst at your job, I have no competition, you have no reason to improve. And that's Medicare's proven that time and time again with inaccurate pricing, inaccurate stuff. But it's like, they're like, I guess we'll fix it eventually. We'll get there.
And Brian, it is at Medicare app. Medicare app through Medicare Center, it's not going away. It's actually going to continue to get improved. Keep in mind, Medicare Center does include a CRM and CSG integrity, which again, Medicare Center is an integrity tool. It's access to anybody who has contracts through an integrity partner. But it does also include CSG, which was just recently purchased by Integrity as well. So you can expect to see some pretty significant improvements on that platform. It's already great, but it's going to continue to get even better and better.
Yes.
Okay. So Bernadette asked a question about what is Medicare Center. Medicare Center, if you're familiar with Enrollment Express, it replaced Enrollment Express. It is a platform that you can shop, compare, and enroll Medicare Advantage and prescription drug plans while keeping the client's information, including their drug list. So it does allow you, again, to do a full, it also allows you to send a link to a client for them to enroll themselves, either via their email or via their texting option, including schedule appointment and everything. It truly is a one-stop shop. It does also include CSG, so it allows you to quote Medicare supplements and other ancillary products while also having a CRM as well.
Thanks, Brian, for derailing everything per the norm.
Bernadette, if you want access to this, again, make sure you go to, you can get that through smsteam.net. Scroll down, it'll take you to all of our information on Medicare Center, or you can click on medicarecenter.com and the welcome, you can register for it there as well.
If you're ever lost and it's outside the cafe hours, go to smsteam.net and use the live chat. I know sometimes calling in can be overwhelming, or you have 3 things you're doing. Go to live chat and just say, hey, how do I get this? So if you're confused or not sure, because they can send you the links or maybe shoot you an email through that. So don't be afraid to do the live chat feature on smsteam.net.
Absolutely. And then I think Christy asked, what were those websites? Again, it's Medicare Center. Using Medicare Center. I know Robert said he'd like some training on that. Robert, we're building the videos as we speak. Well, not right now because I'm talking to you guys, but I'm in the process of building all the Medicare Center training videos. So more information to come.